Hello, and welcome back to Conversations with Claire. Today, my guest is one that I just met like 48 hours ago, maybe 72. On a whim, unexpectedly, and just sat next to one another at dinner and had a good chat. And I was like, screw it, I'm going to ask her to come on. So it's Meg Jacoby. Thank you for coming on.
Oh, well, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I feel like a lot of people who listen will know, but not all. So she is the current reigning world champion in the women's elite at Hyrox, which is a wildfire worldwide growing sport.
Yeah.
And you just won in no small fashion.
Yes.
2 months ago?
Yeah, June.
Okay, yeah. So 2 months ago, you just ran away with it. You were multiple minutes faster than anyone else, which is like, for that race, what was your time?
I was 59:59.
59:59 was your time.
I snuck under the hour mark by 1 second.
Oh my gosh. And that was also setting the world record, right?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. So Lauren Weeks, who finished in second.
Yes.
She was part of the chaos of that wall ball situation, for anybody who might know what I mean.
Yes.
She has the current world record.
Okay.
I had it previous to her.
Got it.
We are friendly competitors, and it's essentially the Hyrox rivalry currently.
Oh, I love
on the
it.
women's field.
And she's so great, and you seem delightful. So like,
thanks.
Yeah, that's fun. And so did you say what the time was that your PR for yourself is?
So my PR is 58:52.
Okay.
Yes.
Sick.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's insane. So I've run 8, I think. Hyrox.
Wow. I didn't realize it was that many.
I've actually run a bunch of them.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah. You're like not that far behind me in terms of like how many races you've done.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And, okay, the storyline on this, I promise we're going to talk a lot more about her, but it's funny. I mean, I was introduced to it through an employee of theirs, and shout out Graham. He is totally awesome.
We love Graham.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I had dropped in at a CrossFit affiliate in Colorado.
Yeah.
3 years ago now. And it was actually 3 years ago, pretty much to the dot, because we actually did a memorial workout for a friend of mine that is being honored this month as well.
Oh.
He passed away. The workout is Rawson. Anyway, so I came into the affiliate and spoke to the owner and asked if he wouldn't mind. He's a friend as well. And I said, would you mind if we do this workout that is a friend of, like, it's honoring a friend of mine who lost his life to mental health. And it's a team workout. The whole point is you carry the load together, right? So he rallied some friends and we did the workout together.
Nice.
So I just came in and was like, here's what we're doing, whatever we did. It was so fun. And then afterwards he was like, do you do this? I was like, oh no,
Yeah.
And so that was how I got introduced, because he had just come onto the team.
Yes.
So then met with some of the other people, whatever. And so I decided to run the next one that was available nearby, which was in Dallas, 2022. And I didn't even know what the race was.
Yeah.
I looked at the physiques, and I was a CrossFitter.
Right.
And so I was just like, this will be fine.
Yeah.
Whatever this is will be fine.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, it was so hard. But then, and I did, because it was a lot easier to qualify a couple of years ago. I got the opportunity to qualify for Worlds there, which was also ironic. Yeah, it was crazy, because I was like, wait a second. I didn't even know what the next station was, So I'm just like running around like, how long do you want me to carry this? Goofing around. Now, that being said, the time I got at Worlds, I have yet to do that again. So my conditioning is down a little bit. But anyway, that's my story with Hyrox. And now we'll talk a lot more about yours. But you're also a mother and a coach.
Yes.
And so that's some stuff that we'll get into later too, because that's all a big deal. Let me ask you, this wasn't the plan first, but like, what was your introduction to Hyrox?
So I had a good friend back home I would train with. We've grew up together, went to high school together. Both were Division I track and field athletes. And we would just we had this group of friends, and we would just meet once or twice a week and do these workouts. And they were very Hyrox / CrossFit-esque. We would just basically take a CrossFit WOD. We would add running to it.
Right.
But it'd be, dumbbell snatches into 400-meter run, into 50 wall balls, into a 400-meter, and it was that kind of style. And he was into the OCR community at the time and had heard about Hyrox. And in this group of people, this was a very, very fit man. So I would tend to do very well at these style of workouts.
Yeah.
And he was like, hey, I really think you need to give this a try.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. That looks cool. Like, we'll do it. And I had no idea at the time that it was a series. I had no idea that you could keep qualifying. I just signed up for the New York City race. It was 2022 fall.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, training for it on my own. And then he was working with Rich Ryan, who is a coach in the Hyrox space, is now a business partner, still a mentor for me. And he was like, hey, I'm working with this coach. Maybe you should try him out. And I'm kind of like, I don't know. I think I'm good. I did end up signing on with him for about 8 weeks before my first race. And I kind of asked him, like, hey, like, how do you think I'll do? I'm doing all these workouts. I'm sending him times, but I have no real grasp of like, where am I compared to other people? Like, I'm looking at some of these names. Like, Lauren was a big inspiration. Of course, I was learning about her. I was learning about Camilla. I was learning about Chris Roglowski, some other women at the time in the field. But I had no idea where I, stacked up. Mm-hmm. And he was kind of like, well, if I'm being really honest, I think you could be somewhere between, you could potentially break the record, or you'll be, at worst, a minute 6. Or an hour 6. And I'm thinking, like, are you sure? Because I'm just kind of like, I don't know, like, really? Like, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I ended up getting a 2-minute penalty. It was a 4-lap course in New York. I did 1 lap short going into burpees. So with the 2-minute penalty, I ended up finishing in 1:06. And I thought, okay, all things considered, I could probably be around 1:04. 4 weeks later, I did my second race and I broke the world record by about 45 seconds. And I thought, okay, now this is when I need to go all in. Like, it was kind of an awakening where it was like, wow, this was very unexpected. I just kind of initially had thought I was going to sign up, do a fun race. A few of my friends were coming down. We ended up doing a relay. We had a great time. Mm-hmm. But now, like, I have a knack for this, and I want to see where it can take me. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the story of how it all started.
That is so cool. So it's late 2022.
Yeah.
So now here we are, almost 2 years after the fact, and you've continued to chase it and improve it, and like you've just gotten more fit. And by this stage of your journey, back 2 years ago, you are 31. Yeah. And so you're far past your D1 collegiate athlete stage of life. You're training because you love to train at this point.
Right.
You're not training for sport necessarily. Like, you weren't playing another sport at that time.
I was doing powerlifting. I did a powerlifting meet about 3 months before my first Hyrox. I ended up winning, which was crazy because I was like, this is not that. Okay, I'm not that good. But
what were your lifts? Let's hear it.
Okay, so I hit 190 for the bench.
Get it, girl.
That was that was my most proud moment.
Yeah, that's
because
awesome.
Usually I feel like the women in powerlifting, I mean, a lot of them are really good at benching, but usually their deadlifts are crazy and their squats are crazy, and then the bench is like, okay. So I felt really proud of that. But my deadlift was 355 and my back squat was 280. So I come from distance running.
Right.
I've been a distance runner since I was 11.
Yeah.
So that took me so long, just because you're talking totally different muscle fibers. You know what I mean? Like, it took me so long to get, and I really had to pull the cardio back, and I wasn't running as much, and in order to really capitalize on the lifting. But it was going from, and I was about 130 pounds in about 2019, which is very small for me. I'm about 5'7.5". And I was running half marathons and marathons at that point. And when COVID shut everything down, the gyms opened up. That was like the only thing you could do. Like, there was no racing. So I was running and running and running with friends. There was no races. So it was like, I'm going to just shift my focus and do something different.
Yeah.
And that's when I got into the lifting. Way more. I mean, I was always lifting, but not like this.
Right.
And that's the beautiful part of how Hyrox kind of came about for me, because it was really at the right time in my life where I had developed a much higher level of strength, especially compared to my past self.
Right.
But I still had this endurance ability that was so, second nature to me. And it was just I found it at the right time.
Right.
In life when like I was focused on not just running, and I was doing a lot more strength training, and that is probably why I was able to have success right away, I feel.
Do you remember the first race that you ran? Do you remember what the attendance from like
Oh my God.
how many people ran the race? Yeah,
it was like maybe 2,000.
And now at that same city, so that was in New York.
There's like 6 to 8K people, and they sell out. It was the New York City race was sold out in not even 4 weeks.
Yeah.
That has been this season. So my first season, you could feel it getting bigger, but not like this.
Mm-hmm.
This second season for me, you could just feel the energy at the venue was totally different, and just the amount of participants totally different. Like you could just really feel it growing, and to know that you're maybe a small part of that piece for some people.
You're bigger than a small part.
I appreciate it.
You
but
are.
I think that's by far one of the most rewarding things of the journey is like the amount of messages, and just people will say you're an inspiration to me. I signed up for my first race. I watched you here. That is the most incredible feeling, because if it weren't for people like that in my world, I wouldn't be doing it either. So it's so cool to see how many people just watched something you did and then wanted to try it, and now it's just growing at such a rapid rate. It's pretty special.
Dude, it's such a full circle thing when 100%. You're saying that. Like, I can only imagine, because I relate that to the early days of CrossFit before it was what it is now. And of course, we know that we're in a really challenging season. I can't even we've spoken about that on a previous episode that was recorded here, and we're gonna probably just leave that there because anyway. But the early athletes, like it's cool, because what this makes me feel like is I remember Annie Thorisdottir, and I remember being a teenager watching her on screen, and then looking up like Icelandic people's names. Like, her name is Thorisdottir because she's the daughter of Thor.
Yeah, right.
Oh my gosh. And then learning about their, just like the sun after, for this things about a culture I had never had any curiosity about before.
Right.
And then of course continuing to watch the sport for years and years, and then having no clue that I was ever then going to many years later get into one of those gyms and then start to eventually believe in myself within those walls, and you name it. Like that's so cool. I can think of how in some way, for far more people than you can probably have the awareness around right now, like you are one of those roles for so many girls and women looking at this rapidly growing thing that is also approachable.
Yeah.
Maybe not at the elite level yet for some of them, but there's a journey to get there.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the most encouraging aspects of Hyrox, I think, is that there's so much room to grow in it and to see improvement, and because it's a time-based event, right? So it's easy to track that. And I think for a lot of people, when it comes to training, that is really, really helpful for them, and to keep them engaged and to keep them interested.
Right.
And I think that no matter who you are, there's so much potential for improvement. Or maybe you do super well in the women's pro unexpectedly, and you're like, hey, in 1 to 2 years, if I really commit myself, maybe I could be in the Elite 15. That feeling of hope and inspiration for people with this sport, I think is another aspect that makes it unique.
Yeah.
Because kind of like I said, like I was like, once I learned what the Elite 15 was, I was like, oh, of course that's going to be my goal, right? But I didn't even have any real awareness of that at the very beginning. And then to kind of like fit in and then end up being one of the fastest people, like that was not really what I was anticipating.
Yeah.
And now seeing children, like they're doing a Hyrox Kids event in the UK, and I do see and get to speak to so many children. And that reminds me of where CrossFit is now, where we have so many young competitors who start because of Annie and Katrin and Sarah and all these OG CrossFitters. These girls emulated them in their youth, learned how to, Olympic lift and do CrossFit early, and now they're the stars in the game. So hoping that you get to be that person for them and then get to see the next group of athletes come through.
Yeah.
And know that maybe you helped open a door or just a window or moved a shade over for them to give them a light through. Like, that feels incredible.
Yeah.
And I'm a mom. So like I would love for my daughter to have that person in whatever discipline she chooses.
Totally.
It does not have to be she hates running, so it's probably not going to be Hyrox. But like you hope as a mom and as a woman that your daughters especially, I mean sons too, but especially daughters, have that role model to look up to and inspire them. So it's to be maybe that person for people. That's like, it's just the cherry on top of so much greatness that I think comes from the sport.
I also feel in this moment, which this is kind of just like as we're sitting here, I'm like, one, I can feel the passion coming off of you for what you're saying.
Thanks. Yeah.
Which then, well, thank you for having it. You're someone who strives for great things, and it is inspiring. And then it's also just, it's cool. Like, I think that I'm blanking. And I love this about podcasts, by the way, whenever you're like, oh, I lost what I was going to say. I love that because long form allows for that. But yeah, I guess just the full circle nature of it. Yeah. Oh, what I was going to say is just that it's neat sitting here and talking with you, because it feels like something I did not know is that actually for this growing sport, you are, based on this conversation in the short period of time, like, you're a good mouthpiece for it.
Thank you.
I feel like what the energy that you carry for it, the passion that you carry for it, and what you're already saying, what you hope to contribute, like, that's a really cool thing to be a part of. So it just makes me happy to know that, it's not surprising that something that requires a tremendous amount of work also then attracts a high caliber individual. But anyway, I just think that's cool, because I'm sitting here and I'm like,
thank you.
This is a good mouthpiece. Like, this is good.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, okay. So you said real quick that you're a mom, and you have a 9-year-old, right?
Yes.
Okay. So this is also wild, because you are now 32.
33.
33.
Yep.
And which means obviously that you were, if math serves me right, 23, 24, 23 when you had your daughter. Mm-hmm. And so you've literally had this whole life before this.
Yeah.
And so I guess that I do want to kind of take it back. I know we're not doing it chronological by doing so, but you grew up in upstate New York?
Yes.
Okay,
in
cool.
upstate New York.
Okay.
My daughter was born in Hawaii. We lived there for 3 years.
Okay.
When she was about 1.5 years old, her father and I separated, and I moved back to upstate New York just to be closer to family. If anyone's a single parent, I'm sure that they understand how important that is, just having support. And family.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing about me, and we had a lot of ups and downs. My daughter's a huge part of my why, huge part. But I think growing up as an athlete, ending up as a Division I athlete, I've always learned to lean into who I am when I'm going through hardship. And a huge part of who I am is an athlete. Mm-hmm. And I'll always view myself and speak of myself as an athlete. Mm-hmm. And so I just, whether it was running or it was lifting or whatever it was, I just leaned really into that, because that's where I felt the best about myself. I felt the most true to myself, but I also felt the most empowered. Mm-hmm. And I think when you're going through some hardship and you're not maybe so secure in who you are, or you're having those trials, it's, some people go in one of two directions. It's either you venture away from those things you're passionate about, or you really dive deep into them. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's just kind of the person that I am. And those, running races and being involved in running groups, and then being involved in lifting and getting to know people, that having community, having those things that I was passionate about is what has always gotten me through.
Yeah.
And I was always kind of the crazy lady at the gym, you know, like I'm like,
I can see it.
100%. And then people, sometimes I wasn't training for anything. People would be like, what are you training for? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm hard to kill or something.
Totally.
You know, it would just be, I was always very intense. And when you're a parent, you don't have a lot of time. So it's like, I got 1 hour, I'm here and I'm grinding. You know what I mean? And that all has kind of led me to this journey that I'm on now. And it's one of those things where, again, it's like the timing was just right in my life, because if my daughter was a lot younger, I don't know that I would be willing or able to, especially able to, you know, be traveling and competing as much as I am. It's nice because she is a little bit old enough to understand, and we can have conversations around it where it's like, hey, this is really important for me, but so are you, and I'm really sorry I'm gone. You know, I hope you're proud of me. Like we can have those conversations where I think if she was a little bit younger, less independent on her own, I think I would have had a much harder time getting into the sport.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. I mean, do I know what you mean? Absolutely not, because I can't relate. I'm not going to pretend to understand something that I haven't experienced, at least not really, you know?
Yeah.
Like it is making sense, and yet I can't pretend to like get it, you know? I think, like you said, we talked about this a little bit at dinner the other night in regards to certain high level female competitors with children, and how often the narrative is, you know, I'm doing it for my son, daughter, and hearing different perspectives about like, oh no, you're not, you know, and that is a matter of opinion and perspective. And then I just believe you. I do believe that a large motivator for you is truly, because even whether or not your child is at any age at the time of your performance being exceptional, whether they are at an age yet where they get it, they still have a parent who strived and achieved at a really high level, and therefore these things don't go away.
Right. They will understand that in time, even if they're not old enough to comprehend it now. And I think that's another really big thing for me. She was at World Championships with me this year. And it's not just about her being there and seeing me win, but it's also about her seeing every other single powerful ass woman that I get to line up with and see how much work and effort and heart that they all have. And that is, they're all such amazing role models for my daughter, you know, and if I'm not the one she emulates to be like, then I hope it's one of them. You know what I mean? And it's like, having her be there to witness that and the camaraderie within that group. We all go down and cheer for each other in the wall balls when we're finished. You know, she, you know, was asked questions about, you know, are you proud of your mom and things like that. And those are the moments that I believe in my heart that she will carry with her for the rest of her life. You know, those are core memories, I think, or I hope. Yeah. You know?
Well, you're just giving her the gift of exposure to a way of life that is fruitful. And so, you know, that's, yet again, I don't have children yet, so I'm kind of speaking out of turn, but I do hope to have children. And I certainly, you know, I remember when I lived in Oklahoma, I was close with a family who had some young children, and I would spend a lot of time with their family. And it was wonderful exposure to me. I've expressed to them a lot of gratitude, and need to continue to do so. Just that to me, like, I enjoyed the experience as a friend of theirs, of being around for this beautiful, like, family dynamic, you know, and now their children are taking these classes, they're CrossFit, but you know, CrossFit classes, and watching, you know, and I just know how many years those kids have been showing up, seeing mommy and daddy and mommy and daddy's friends do really cool things. And both of those children are absolutely, at least at this stage of things. So whether or not they go in and out and make their choice, they get to make their choices, but you've given them access to so much. I was speaking with someone else earlier today too, who was a friend of an athlete, and was talking about, like, they're traveling with this athlete this week. And so they're getting this up front row seat to how disciplined and proactive this athlete is. And if I were to tell you the details of going to the grocery store and things like that, you'd be like, well, yes, of course, because because you're an athlete who has learned those disciplines and learned how important they are to your quality of life.
Right.
And maybe that's an assumption of mine that you do those things, but you
100%.
probably do.
Yeah.
And I remember when I got taught from someone else how to do those things, and there's always room for growth with that. But as I was listening to that, I'm like, oh, that is so special, because here this person is as an adult now getting for the first time this close proximity to this, now knowing that that's an option.
Yeah.
And you're giving it to your child as a child.
And it's so many lessons. And it's not about, I've probably lost more races than I've won. So my daughter is also seeing that, right? And she's seeing the tears in the garage when this is the last thing that I want to do, or I'm hurt and I still have to find a way to train, or whatever the case may be. She sees all the ups and the downs. And I think that the work ethic she sees, how much work it takes to achieve a goal, to achieve a dream, that is probably the biggest lesson that I could ever give her. Because I think in our society, especially with phones and just social media, and it's like, it seems sometimes people present things and it's like as if it was easy to attain that, and that's just not the case. And so I love that she sees day in and day out consistent work, and I can't take a break. Why? Because I have a goal, or I have this to chase, or of course sometimes we do take breaks, don't get me wrong, but you know what I mean? Like, and I try to have those conversations with her, like, hey, yes, we can totally go do that today, but I have to train first, and then we can go do that. And she might feel disappointed in that moment, but the lesson is that I'm dedicated to something and I have to get this done. You know what I mean? And teaching her, like, well, if you really want something bad enough, you have to give it 110%. And just the nutrition stuff. I grew up as a distance runner, and I love my family, so this isn't a shot at them, but they didn't understand, like, how to teach how to fuel and things like that, right? Like, my parents weren't in endurance sports. And I had coaches that were not always the greatest on that front. And, we came from a world where being thin was everything. And if you didn't fit that mold, then they were trying to get you, to do whatever. And I love that I get to have important conversations like that with her too, about how important it is to fuel your body, and that food is fuel, and, how to eat healthy and how to live a balanced diet and lifestyle. Cause it's like, I'm not eating, chicken and rice every 5 seconds. I do enjoy regular food like a normal person, but understanding that balance and just having her exposed to so much of that, I think is just very, very important. So it's been a journey that's like just given back so much more than I could give it. You know what I mean?
Totally. I'm actually I'm so stoked I asked you to come. Like, truly, because this is just, I could put the microphone down now and be done, and it would just be, everything you've said has been so, which I suppose it sounds so silly in, like, thinking about it in this moment. I'm like, you don't get to be a world champion of anything that hundreds of thousands of people are competing in by now without being exceptional in a number of areas of life. And so just, there's already so much to be taken away from this. So thank you.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. And you're right. I mean, the access to those resources of the food is fuel. In fact, I think I may have said this at dinner the other night, and I already said it on another podcast recorded this week, because I came up with it in the past week and I can't shut up about it, and you may have already heard it, but I literally need, when you say culture of be small, like, I need there to be scales where the only number that is available on the scale is skeletal muscle mass, and the only goal
100%.
is bigger number. Like, for chicks, like, you don't get to have a pound scale anymore, or if you're European, or you don't get to have a kilo scale anymore. Like, you are only allowed to see how big your muscles and your lean mass are, like, that would be the coolest thing. And that's the direction that, like, we're heading, as you do coach people,
right?
And which is also wild, because you coach in addition to being the athlete at the level that you are. But the working with people all the time, I'm just like, it is so hard to get women away from the scale. And I'm like, that picture is trash.
Yeah.
It's literal trash. It's such an, just an awful depiction of what's going on internally based on the actions that you're taking.
Right.
And so anyway, okay. So I want to take a couple of other pivots. I do want to go to, before we get into the whole CrossFit versus Hyrox situation, which I do want to do because I think it's fun. But 2 years ago, you randomly started running races.
Yeah.
And you did well fast.
Yes.
You have an agent.
I do.
Manager.
Yes,
What's the appropriate term?
I kind of refer him as both. I think both work.
He's great.
Sometimes I say agent, sometimes I say manager.
Yeah,
he is awesome.
As soon as you said who you were with, I was like, money.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We get along so well. We're both very fun, big personalities. So, yeah.
Yeah. And so your life has like, all of these eyeballs are suddenly on you.
Yeah.
And you're being judged by many for every, anyway, my curiosity with all of that, of course, is like, and we talked about this at dinner, but like, has it been disorienting?
Honestly, I think I've just had, when I realized that I had potential to do something special with this, I think it was very much in my foresight that I knew I wanted to make a huge impact. And as an athlete, but as a person in the community, I wanted to go down leaving Hyrox as one of the, I don't know, legend, you know what I mean? And not just because of accomplishments competitively, but also for what I can give to the community and how I can help it grow and how I can be a positive role model for so many people. And especially for parents, because I think so many people, thankfully, the amount of support I've gotten is insane. I think so many people relate to my story because I wasn't, I didn't have these, it's not been an easy situation. And, training two to 3 times a day, working a full-time job. I was able to leave my job this past November.
Which, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
An
crazy
exciting
turn of events.
Yeah.
And
you
that's
say
what
that
I mean.
You work.
It's like, I still work.
You
Don't
got
get me
stuff going
wrong.
on.
I coach 30 athletes and I have a training app and I do a lot, but
yeah,
I don't go to my corporate desk job anymore. That's what I mean. And to have that big flip in my life, it was like, this is what I've always dreamed of. I'm doing what I love to do. And I'm just so happy and so fulfilled. And that's been like the coolest part with just how quickly things have transpired, because I didn't know it was going to happen this quickly. Right. Where I was hoping that this journey would take me to the point where I could leave my job and I could be an athlete full time, but I did not know it would be in less than it was basically just over a year. Had no idea it would happen that quick.
Yeah.
And then shortly after that is when I was introduced to my agent, Snorri. I had won right after I quit. This is what doing the things in life that you, like putting them aside, the things you don't like, and really following your heart. This is what will do for you. I won the first 2 big races of the season right after I quit my job. And I firmly believe that just taking that huge life stress off of me that I was miserable at and taking that leap of faith, because I was just coaching then. I didn't have any sponsorships. I was just praying something would come. I was able to build my coaching business up enough that I could survive. And I knew if I wanted to really be at this level, I knew I had to really go all in, and I couldn't just be working, and it was just too chaotic. Yep. And so I really took a big chance, and I bet on myself, and it worked out. And it's one of those things where if I had just kept one foot out the door, I don't know that I would be where I am right now. I don't know that I would have won that world championship. I don't know that sponsors would have decided they wanted to work with me, and it would be a full-time sponsored athlete. But I made that choice, and that's what opened these doors. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's been really cool. And after I won those first 2 races, that's when I was introduced to Snorri. So
Okay.
Now I have him, and he's been a massive help, and he's why I'm here at the CrossFit Games. So
cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then, so your perspective is so cool.
Thank you.
What's been hard?
Yeah. Overcoming the mental side of expectations. And I think I've got a great grip on it now. But I would say my first season, I was still new. I didn't really understand how to navigate this. I would listen to all these podcasts, and they'd be talking about me, and they'd be talking about other girls I'd compete against. And I would definitely let it would get to me. I would want to prove these people wrong if they didn't think I was going to win or whatever the case may be. And I think going into my second season, I just gained so much mental strength. And I don't really know what exactly it was. I think it was just compounding over time, where it was like, I only care about how I feel at the end. I don't care if I come in first or second. You know what I'm saying.
Yeah, you're like,
I do.
like to win.
Of course,
Sure.
we're all there, and we all hope to win, and we all hope to do our best. But I want to be able to leave feeling like I left it all out there every time, that I can walk away and be proud, that I didn't quit or give up when it felt really hard and I wasn't having a good day. If I can do all those things, and then the chips can fall where they may. And I think I got a really good grasp on that. You're not going to win every time.
Right.
That's just not reality. You're not going to have your best race every time you line up. Nobody does. Look at the Olympics going on right now, right? Like, that's just not how this works. And so understanding that, and also understanding that expectations aren't real. That's a made up thing you put in your own head. Whether I came in first, second, third, the fans, the people in the community still loved and supported me. Mm-hmm. So who is really putting that expectation on us? It's me.
Right.
And so, yeah, I expect myself to show up and give it everything I have, but I don't go in thinking or expecting a result. Mm-hmm. And I think that has really helped me with my mindset, with just being able to race, feeling confident, feeling comfortable, knowing I belong. I think that's probably been the biggest thing. And, my daughter has been it's funny how your kids sometimes are almost wiser than you think. She has said to me, because I remember one race, I was like, oh, I came in second, and my main competitor in that race so she beat me, and she also had broken my record at the time, and that was a hard one. That was a hard day, and I didn't even have a bad day. I didn't even have a bad race. She just had a phenomenal race. Mm-hmm. And even my daughter was like, who cares if you came in second? You still did great. Like, what do you mean? And it's like sometimes those small people in your life, you're just like, yeah, you're right. Mm-hmm. Like, why is that bothering me so much?
Yeah.
And I love this space because I think everybody can in fitness and in life, everyone can wear their own crown. Your crown does not take away from mine, and mine doesn't take away from yours. We can all be great, and we can all have our best day sometimes, and we can all, I view it now as, if I don't have the best day, it just wasn't my turn. Mm-hmm. It was their turn. Mm-hmm. And I had a really hard time. My first world championship, I came in second. It was a very close race. And I had just been the first woman about a month prior to that to ever go under an hour. So again, I break another record. It's a big one. It felt amazing. So I'm kind of riding a high, and then I didn't perform the way that I wanted to at the world championship. But it was like, in hindsight, it's like, it just wasn't my moment. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's totally okay. And then now this year, it was my moment. It was my turn.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. And then maybe next year it'll be someone else's turn. And that's okay. We can all, I would love it to be my turn again. Don't get me wrong. I am a competitor, but at the same time, it's like, you can't put your self-worth in a result.
Yeah.
And I think that was something I've learned how to do much better.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the cool things too is like yet again, I keep referring to this conversation because it's the one with God,
Yeah.
But whenever I was asking you something along these lines about like, has it been challenging? What has been challenging? And I appreciate from you that you're like, well, actually, here's the thing that I bump up against the most.
Yeah.
And it was that expectations when it comes up and how do I deal with it.
Yeah.
And what I think stands out for me in hearing you say that is just simply like your ability to like say it out loud suddenly gives it less power versus keeping it in, you know? And so having the capacity to just, even if it's uncomfortable to acknowledge, you know, the longer that I try to keep the scary monster over there,
right,
the bigger the scary monster gets.
absolutely.
You know, versus just like, dude, here's the truth. You know, I mean, it just reminds me of, as far as like struggle, I just remember earlier this year I had a really cool moment where I'd built up a significant amount of financial problems in my life. And I finally made the call to the people that I was like, tell me what to do. I've made a mess.
Yeah.
You know, and we have different seasons. That's just the most recent proximity one for me. And yet again, always reminded, if you will not keep things to yourself, you know, so then it's always like we can look at what we have in our life right now. And it's like, what's going on in my life right now that it would just, even if it's not some dire situation, but just simply a discomfort, should that be communicated to another person? Would that be beneficial to just like share that load? We know that most of us know that conceptually, but like practically applying can be quite hard. So I thought that was really cool to be able to say like, what is the struggle? And for you to like articulate, like, that's one I currently grapple with, you know? And then the struggle of, you know, hey, mommy's got to do certain things because, you know, it's just beautiful to be able to say that as opposed to try to keep it in.
Yeah.
And let it eat you up.
I think no matter who you are, speaking of the mom thing, no matter who you are and no matter what level you do it at, if you're a mom, there is mom guilt, no matter what.
Gosh, I've never met a mom who doesn't have it.
Exactly. And I haven't either. And so no matter what, no matter whether you fully believe in your heart, this is the right decision and this is what I need to do and it's great for her or great for him to see me doing it, you still in the back of your mind have that like, I am missing time or I'm missing this or whatever. I had a very big race in Austria the week of my daughter's birthday this year. Her birthday was Wednesday. My race was Friday night. It's in Austria. Leaving the day after her birthday and also expecting to perform was just not going to happen. So we celebrated, we did a birthday party, we did all the stuff before I left. But just not being there on her birthday, even though this is now my livelihood and how I am paying for the birthday party.
Right.
And knowing that this is the right decision, maybe because if I'm going to take the trip to go do this race, there's no point of doing it if I'm not at my best to perform. Otherwise, I just wasted time away from her for what?
Right.
You know?
Right.
But those are those decisions that are really, really tough. And like she said to me this year, do you have a race on my birthday? And I said, nope. And she was so happy. And that's when those moments really set in. You're like, okay, you think it, like, maybe I'm trying to like, is it that big of a deal? Of course, she's telling me it's not, but you can kind of see that it was. And then those are those moments where you're like, okay, like, you know, we have to figure this out. And it's really hard. It's really hard.
Yeah, yet again, not going to pretend to understand. I just am not going to. I know that we have to like bump up against the edges oftentimes as humans to like discover where they are.
Right.
And so whether that's the edges of my comfort and how I show up in this relationship or, you know, bump up against your edges as an athlete to figure out where they all are sometimes in hopefully in training as opposed to in race. But hey, whatever, you know, sometimes you accidentally fall off the edge and you're like, well, there it was.
Yeah.
And now I'm here.
Yeah.
You know, but we learn.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's okay. I just, the mom guilt thing, I think the more you can articulate it, the less power it holds over you.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely.
Okay. So CrossFit versus Hyrox.
Yes.
We think this is a fun topic.
This is a very fun topic for me. As you can see, I am here at the CrossFit Games as a Hyrox world champion. So,
as a fan of
as
the sport
a fan,
of CrossFit.
As someone who is also in the CrossFit community, I started CrossFit. Well, I was unofficially kind of doing CrossFit for much longer than before I joined an actual box.
Yeah.
But when I started doing Hyrox, I realized so many of my competitors also did CrossFit. And so I said to myself, maybe you should do CrossFit because this seems to be a commonality amongst a lot of your competitors. Mm-hmm. So it was like, okay, that seems like a thing that could help me. Mm-hmm. And I think the two blend super well together. I do a lot of CrossFit in my training. And I believe in it. I think as a modality, it's awesome. Mm-hmm. I love how I feel after. Mm-hmm. There seems to be, as we discussed, this thing online where
we're not friends.
And it's almost like I think these sports are siblings that are just maybe not seeing eye to eye at the moment. But I think in general, there's so much blend between the communities. And I've met so many people here at the games who have been so sweet and positive to me about Hyrox. And whatever that stigma is that the two can't exist is probably coming from people who aren't even doing either.
Right.
People who are doing both are so like, we love CrossFit, we love Hyrox. They think they were like so kind and so supportive of me.
Yep.
But they're here at the games, so it's clear it's like you can do both. And a lot of the people that do CrossFit who do Hyrox, they love that it's a different challenge, but it still goes super well with their training.
Totally.
So I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
And fitness, let's just celebrate fitness.
Totally.
I just love fitness. I love people being fit. I love people trying new things.
Yep.
I walked into a CrossFit box and like the first time I tried to do kipping pull-up, like I looked silly. And it's okay. That's okay.
I mean, I think sometimes I still look silly.
I definitely still look
for sure.
I look
still
very silly.
But I like confirmed with absolute certainty looked silly for many years in most things. And there are still some things that I do in fact look silly for sure. Anyway, yeah. I love the sibling perspective, and I do think it's so cool because yet again, here we go with internet versus reality. Internet and I have whole entire podcast episodes over internet versus reality because it's such a hot topic of like, because I get fired up because I'm like, it's not reality. And so somehow I want to convey the message to the internet that this is not reality, you know, of just like the divisiveness that's there or the argument that these athletes are like, one is better than the other or whatever. It's just like, excuse me, it's a different thing. They are wildly complementary. Agreed. And yet you want to be the top over here. You're going to need to do some specific behaviors for that. You want to be the top over here. Right. You're going to need to do some specific behaviors over here. Realistically, you will not do both simultaneously.
Right.
Is what appears to be the case at this time, unless we now have some hybrid athlete that comes across. But even the physiques look slightly different.
Yeah,
There's
absolutely.
Just, it's not the same.
Right. And when this debate, it makes me laugh a little because like I said, I'm someone who I come from endurance and I learned how to do strength after, right? Most CrossFit people, it's the opposite. They're coming more from a strength type sport or a power output type sport, something explosive. Maybe they started with Olympic weightlifting when they were growing up or gymnastics.
Yep.
And that's amazing. But these are two totally different athletes. But they do have a blend and a complementary aspect to them. But to the internet who says the Hyrox people could never be regional CrossFitters. Yeah, absolutely not. I don't know who is saying that.
Yeah.
Not me.
Yeah.
No one is saying that here.
But what I will say, though, is I do believe that, not saying that you should at all. I think what you're doing is great. Keep up the great work. I'm not going to tell. But I think if you were to take and apply yourself to wanting to be one of them, I do believe that because of your mindset and the foundation that you have built, I believe if you decided to transfer it over, you could. And I think you could say that about many athletes on either side of that fence.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
And when I watched the 1,600 meter run last night,
that
confirmed
should we talk about that?
Because Ricky's a great example because he's done some Hyrox events and he was, I think, around the 60 to 61 minute mark. If he wanted to be elite in Hyrox and really train for that specifically, which would require him to put the barbell down probably a lot more and really be running significantly more.
Sure.
he could definitely become very, very good at this.
Right.
I don't think anyone is arguing with that.
Right.
Would it take some time? Potentially.
Yeah.
Could it happen really quick though? Yes, also potentially. It just kind of depends on like how somebody, adapts to that style of training.
Sure.
It would definitely take me a really long time to be able to put up the weight in a lot of these skilled movements, right? Like power cleans. I do them, but I'm not doing them super heavy or snatching or things like that. Yeah. So it'd probably take me longer because those skills are higher level to be able to come over into this sport.
I think it's such a,
but I do test, we test workouts that CrossFit puts out, and anything engine. Yeah. Of course we can, that's what I do. Right. So of course I can keep up with some. I love doing the open. I don't even necessarily register, but I'll do the workouts when they're at, my affiliate gym. And if I look at the times, it's like I'm in there. Yeah. But not in the, that's when the skills are less, crazy and whatever. And that's why I like it. I think that's so cool that I can participate in this in some way, see kind of where I stack up among people because I emulate them. It's not like I'm comparing because I think I'm better. I'm just like, holy shit, that's so cool. Like I'm not that far off of so-and-so, or I could be, whatever. But obviously, as it continues and it gets more skilled, then that's where I'm currently out because that's not what I do. Right. But yeah, there's many. I love seeing the CrossFitters coming over and trying it. Sydney Wells did Anaheim. Mal O'Brien did a doubles race in Anaheim. Yes. I think Emma Lawson's racing in Canada, the Toronto race. There's a lot of them are hopping in. Yes. And I encourage it, and I think it's amazing that they're doing that.
Well, yeah, and I mean, for an athlete like that, I mean, if they're not training specifically for it, yet again, are they going to necessarily be Elite 15? I don't know, but they can easily, like a CrossFitter can easily come in and do a Hyrox race. Yeah. Whether they will perform at a very high level within it or not going to speak to that necessarily. Right. But then, like you said, the blend over, you flip it the other way, and it's like, the skills and the loading in CrossFit are altogether different. So you need to have that stuff going on if you want to transfer over. There's just, and then the running is the difference over, so you just, there are simply different things you need to be excellent at if you want to be good at them.
Right. For sure.
Yeah. And I think the thing that you said about the people coming up to you and being so supportive and so encouraging and so knowing who you are and all of the things that, it makes me very happy for you with that.
Thank
of course.
You.
Yes. Because yet again, you've excelled and like being respected is awesome. Who doesn't want that, Yeah. And you've worked hard for that. So to be is cool. And it does just not even surprise me a little bit that as soon as you get into reality instead of the internet, what you find is wild support on both sides. I mean, you have admiration for these athletes.
Without a question of a doubt.
And there's no way they don't look at your performance and what you're doing and go, that's super cool. And maybe I'm putting words in people's mouths, but I believe that that's probably true.
I had a few people in the few CrossFitters that are here competing had reached out to me after Worlds, and they were like, that looks so hard. The ones who have tried it in particular were like, that was one of the hardest workouts I've done. And genuinely, and I appreciate, hey, you're doing a really cool, really hard looking event and you crushed it. Great job. And it's a vice versa. Like that's a really nice thing because they don't need to do that. You know what I mean? But it's nice to see that the athletes respect it because I think we respect CrossFit, especially as athletes. And the regardless of whether you think CrossFitters could come in and destroy us at Hyrox, we're all putting so much time and energy and work and passion into what we're doing. I think it's just that mutual respect and camaraderie for that. And that's why I think it was been so cool having so many people just coming over and they're like, hey, I think your name's Meg. I just want to say congrats. Like they don't even like really know who I am, but they're just being so kind. And it's like, and it's just that respect of like, hey, I love to train. You love to train. Let's high five about it. You know what I mean? And that's awesome. Yep. That's awesome.
Yep.
And I would actually venture to say I would love to see a Hyrox in a CrossFit Games.
Oh, that would be so cool.
Right? Right?
I mean, literally, considering we've done a marathon row, I say we've.
It's not out of the realm. It's not out of the realm.
Not at all.
And they would all probably do amazing. It's all stuff they can do. a lot of the things they do lunges in
would be
CrossFit.
really
They do
fun.
wall balls.
Yeah.
They did a ski erg event yesterday.
It was actually cool during Chad today to even see that some of them having like goos and stuff and
Yeah.
their, like, you know, gear.
Yeah. Very, very Hyrox of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. Well, it made sense.
Yeah.
I would be too. Walking down on the floor.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I do, you know, there was a part of me that wanted to ask about a bit of details about, like, if you're wanting to get into CrossFit, or I'm sorry, wanting to get into Hyrox,
Yeah.
like training stuff, but you have a podcast where you probably go really deep on a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. So I think what I would rather do is, one, I'll encourage people to go listen to your podcast, which we'll plug.
Thank you.
Or the RMR podcast.
RMR training.
RMR
Yeah.
training, and where they can hear you speak at more length in regards to, like, if you are considering training for a Hyrox, here are some things that I would prioritize. You have coaching that you offer. There's an app, all of that.
Yes.
So I think I'm just going to leave that there and keep focusing on a couple of favorite things from you.
Yeah.
To round this out.
For sure.
So sorry guys, but you can get that there. But okay, so random. What is your favorite meal? Like, not, well, maybe we go both. Maybe we go like, who cares? And then, like, when we're training day to day, refuel, enjoy the experience, both.
I love tacos.
Okay.
Big tacos, big chips and guac. Love a margarita. That's my go-to.
Love that for you.
If I'm going to be like, hey, we're going out and this is what we're doing.
Have you ever heard the phrase chippin', dippin', and sippin'?
No, but I'm obsessed with it now.
It's yours now.
Okay. We needed that on a
It's yours.
t-shirt, actually.
Oh, it is. It's out there.
Perfect.
I mean, I don't have a t-shirt, but you can find them on the internet. Chippin', dippin', and sippin'.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's your life.
So that would be like my go-to, like, cheat, have fun meal. And then, I mean, I'm very plain. I love Greek yogurt.
Okay.
I do Greek yogurt with protein and granola and berries for breakfast. And that's, like, honestly one of my favorite meals.
Yeah.
And I love chicken and rice because I'm weird and I just could eat that all day.
White rice. Do we salt it? Do we add any
We salt it.
rosemary
We
or
like
garlic
to add a
or-
little honey mustard.
Okay.
I like a little sweet, a little tangy.
Okay.
That's usually my go-to.
How are you prepping your chicken?
Honestly, I'm just baking it because I'm weird. Or if my dad will grill it. I had a bad grill experience one time, and I will never do it again. I almost burnt my whole face off. So I'm like, nope, that's not for me. I'm not good at that. My parents think I'm ridiculous because it's like, it's really not that hard. You just lift the thing up before you do that. And I'm like, yeah, well, I'm just not going to. So that's not for me. It's not for me anymore. Traumatized.
Sounds like Traeger. You guys need to help her out.
Traumatized.
Yeah,
Somebody,
get with her.
just somebody come grill for me all the time. Yeah, that's it. It's pretty plain. I'm a big iced coffee girl too. Even in the middle of winter in upstate New York, I am still out there with my iced coffee because I'm a diehard. So that's my
What do you
jam.
put in your iced coffee?
I mean, I like a little vanilla syrup. Currently have my boyfriend hooked on it. He used to drink regular coffee. Now I'm like, no, you're gonna be like me.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, this is delicious, but why are we doing this? We don't even need the sugar. And I'm like, yeah, we do. That's how
you're going to use it because he trains hard too.
Yes, he does. He does.
Which also, just congratulations. It's a relatively newer relationship, right?
Yes, we are very happy.
It's awesome.
It's nice to find somebody who you feel like brings out the best in you.
Yep.
And he really sees me for who I am. And I think I'm very good at, I had a bad workout the other day, and I haven't had a bad workout in a while. It was I had a big running workout, and it was mile repeats. Blah. And it just didn't go very well. It was hot. My heart rate was just jacked from the start. I was working way too hard, way harder than I should be. And I was way out of the zone I needed to be in, and it just wasn't going well. And it's really nice when someone sees you and they can see the wheels turning internally, and when you're kind of questioning yourself, like, okay, why is this going the way it is? Or like, I had a great workouts last week. Like, what's going on? And someone who just sees that and knows exactly what to say and reminds you, like, hey, it's okay to have a bad workout once in a while. It's fine. You're still you. It's all good. This is normal.
Did he perceive that without you having to say,
100%.
I'm having a bad workout?
100%. Oh, he could hear me. We're together so often now. He was with me the 4 weeks before the World Championship. And there were some times, especially leading up to a big event, a big race, a big championship, the games. This is a perfect example. It's really stressful on an athlete because you feel like every session has to go perfect. Everything has to be dialed. And you're thinking about this big goal and this big competition. Yeah, everything is on point. Your sleep, your food, you're very, very, very routine. And there are days where that feels really, really overwhelming at times. And so he's seen me at moments where I was having a tough time, and so he sees that in me now, and he knows. And it's been doing it on your own, because I've done life on my own for a really long time.
Yeah.
And doing it on your own and just having one person there, the difference is uncanny. Yep. It's just him even being there, or him hopping on the bike next to me. It just feels support. Yep. I just feel support immediately. And not having that previously was getting really hard. It was starting to kind of wear on me a little bit, where I'm doing every workout alone all the time in the winter, when it's dark, in cold. And that kind of can get to you, where it's tough. And those are those moments where I have a lot of internal thoughts, and I'm like, why am I doing this? What am I doing? What am I, like that you start kind of really going down a rabbit hole at times. Yeah. And it is, but you're just in that deep, dark space, and you're just grinding by yourself, and you're like, this sucks right now. This is not what I want to be doing. Yeah. And so having just one person there, of course you have your family and all these people, but they're not in there with you day in and day out. They're not watching everything you're doing. They're not there helping you make the food and doing all the stuff. So that has been a really big game changer for me, just having somebody fully supportive of me like that.
Yeah, and you did speak to the fact that he's been so supportive. I just realized this fan is angled towards me.
It's
not
okay,
you.
but I'm sweating my ass off.
I'm going to turn it, and I promise we're almost done. I'm literally going to turn it. I feel
fine.
So bad. I feel terrible. I mean, you sweat a lot, so you're okay. But either
fine.
way, I apologize.
I just tell myself my face isn't allowed to sweat.
Your face looks great. You look great.
I tell myself, your face is not allowed, because I have makeup on, guys. Yeah. And it's like, nah. No. The face isn't. Everywhere else can, not the face.
Well, it's doing well. But I finally literally saw it on your chest, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then I can't believe I let this go a full hour before looking down at the direction of the fan and realizing that
we were totally good. I needed to burn a little extra calories today, so we're all set.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, I just gave you a sauna session.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's good for you.
Okay, so what I was going to say in regards to having support, I am so grateful that you have it, and I think that it's a testament to the fact that if someone is in a place where they do not have a partner that can support them, you managed to get yourself all the way to the top without having that.
Yeah.
And then now you have it, which is beautiful, but it doesn't mean that anyone is incapable. It is a hard season when you are solo.
For sure.
But it is not an impossible season, and you are a testament to that.
Thank you.
Totally. Yeah. And then I just so get it, as far as I am just will do everything by myself, will not burden you, not going to ask for anything, whatever. And it's been also the coolest experience to have a partner who supports me.
Yeah.
And wants me to do my things, and my things are different than your things,
right?
But still, and then also just to think too that when I think of you with Benny, I'm like, you're like his Clydesdale,
Oh, thanks.
because he's like, let me keep her fueled so she'll go run,
That's cute.
Anyway, I don't know. Anyway,
yeah.
Okay. Well, that's where my brain went.
No, I like that.
Okay. So I think that is there anything else that we didn't touch on? I've got one way I always finish the show, so we'll do that here in a second. But is there anything else that you wanted to touch on?
No. Just the energy you put out is the energy that you get back. And I've learned that through this whole experience. The positivity I feel like I've put out into the community is also what I'm receiving. The positivity and the energy I've put out in my personal life is now the energy that I'm receiving. As somebody who, like I said, has done life solo, I haven't had the best relationships in the past. I worked on myself. I really prioritized my goals, and I loved who I am. And then now I have the best partner and the best relationship that I could ever ask for. It's the healthiest relationship I've ever been in, and it's because of that. I took the time to love who I am, pursue myself, pursue my dreams, put myself first.
Yep.
And I've gotten that back. So just hope that gives anyone else kind of going through that some hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so true. And it's so simple. And I'm always thinking practical, tactical whenever it comes to these concepts, just because I'm like, we can say things, and I say a lot of things, and, and thankfully you've said a lot of powerful things today. But I just, what are the tactical tools to behind the, and it's like, yeah, you just got really focused on, getting better. It sounds like just improving,
just bettering myself overall. Just in every way, like finding the things that make me happy, prioritizing them, putting away distractions, things that I was giving time and energy to that don't really matter, things like that. Just shifting perspective in a lot of ways. Yeah,
dude, it's so good to finally be like, just to be able to be secure enough in your own pursuits.
Yes.
To be able to go, to say no, and to prioritize
the power of saying no.
I know
this could be a whole nother long 1 hour podcast.
Okay, so what are some things that you say no to with love?
With love, and
or just without
no
love,
disrespect. I used to say yes to every opportunity, and I think sometimes that can be a good thing, but it also takes a lot of energy. And I am in a position as an athlete where I have things I still want to accomplish as an athlete. And so I'm saying no to things that don't coincide with that goal of being a top athlete.
Yep.
And sometimes it's hard. You want to go do this, you want to go do this seminar, but if it's taking away from family or training, those are my top 2 priorities, then I'm saying no to it. And it's not easy, but I've learned the hard way, because then when I haven't done that, I was stressed and I'm having anxiety because I have a race coming up and I didn't train last week the way I needed to. And what was that worth? Now I'm having now my head's not in it. Yep. So just learning to say no to things that aren't coinciding with your true passion, true goal.
Yeah. You're in a, as an athlete, and this is why even in the space of CrossFit, I was always like, I have so much love and respect for the top, because they inspire the heck out of me, and they give me something to strive towards. And yet I've not yet had the motive, I haven't wanted to be them. And I think that that's okay. Or I feel at peace with that. But, with the no, here we go again. Dang it. I'm like, where was I going with that? I tangent and then it's gone. I really do. I already said it. I really do love this about podcasts though. But I don't know why. It's just, you're in a season of it's a sprint. And so as an athlete, you're depending upon your physical body to show up for you.
Right.
And so when it's showing up, go girl.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so that's just my thought there of it makes me think of something my friend Cody says in regards to chapters of life and seasons and so on. And it's if you're in a sprint.
Yeah.
The distractions have got to be gone.
Yes.
And if it's a season of head down and this is what I got to do, that's perfectly fine.
I've also put a lot of other relationships on and I don't want this to sound negative, but when you are achieving something really great and you're putting a lot of energy towards that, you also really see who is really down for you.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I have changed a lot as a person in this journey, and in a great way, in the best way. I feel the most confident about myself now. But I have friends that they liked the old version of me.
Absolutely.
And now I'm a different version of me. And that's a hard pill for some people to swallow. And so the seasons of life, even friendships and relationships, that is another part of the athlete journey that's really tough, because like I said, my priorities are being an athlete and my family. So I don't have a ton of time for social anymore, or meeting for this or doing that. And that's just how this has to be for me. But you kind of learn some lessons along the way, and maybe it opens doors to amazing new friendships, and it maybe closes some doors to some previous ones.
Yep.
But I've always said that not everybody is always meant to last a lot of seasons in your life.
Well, and to some degree,
know?
you become an alien, you know,
Yeah,
in a way.
100%.
And so it's okay, but like you don't make sense to people anymore.
Right.
When things shift in your life so dramatically. I mean, for mine, of course, it wasn't becoming world champion at a sport. It was literally getting sober. You know,
but exactly,
going
it's
through
like
my
it
recovery
changes
journey.
who you are surrounded with.
I couldn't be in the same rooms
Right.
anymore. I mean,
Right.
I couldn't because I couldn't bear it because I like those were things that had to be
Right.
taken care of internally here.
Absolutely.
And so then like striding away from that meant that I had to show up in different rooms.
Yeah.
And so it's this whole grief process that
Yeah.
you have to go through with
For
those
sure.
relationships. But in order for you to become the person that you feel capable of becoming or hope to or striving towards, you know, okay. It's a part of the deal.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Didn't mean to go there, but here we are. 3 things that you are grateful for today.
My daughter,
Okay.
my relationship, and the friends that I've made through Hyrox, especially my business partners.
Yeah.
They're my 2 big bros.
Yeah.
Very appreciative of them.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. And my 3 gratitudes today are going to be, I am grateful that today is a brighter day for many people.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're hitting it on the head.
Yeah.
This is good. This is good.
This is a brighter day.
Yeah.
And the dark is appropriate. And I don't think yet again that I have anything sufficient to say ever in regards to what's happened here this weekend.
Really tragic. Really tragic.
Right. And, yeah, there's nothing I can say that's going to make anything like it's just anyway. So, you know, I think one of the things that was really cool yesterday was seeing some of the athletes smile at one another and so on.
Absolutely.
Just because like if their narrative is that they want us here and they want to be here, even though they're in deep struggle, I want to be here too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
I think there's, no matter what decision anybody has made,
right.
there's honor in all. So choosing to keep competing, there's so much honor in that. Choosing not to, there's so much honor in that. It's whatever makes the most sense for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you need to do, whatever makes the most sense for you. But it has been nice seeing some of the athletes still banding together in that camaraderie of what obviously everybody was here to be a part of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So happy today is a brighter day for sure.
Yeah.
I am grateful for my partner is training a number of different, I say my partner, I have boyfriend, whatever. Anyway, he's training a number of different competitors that are going to be competing at the ADCC next weekend, which is a jiu-jitsu like world championships.
Yeah.
So I'm super stoked to see like just seeing him thrive. I know he got to like coach some kids today that not ADCC related, but you know, he's really passionate about coaching kids. He used to run a lot of programs like that. So just hearing that those things are taking place, I just am always so proud of him. And I'm really happy to hear he gets to have experiences like that. He deserves every bit of it. He works. So it is the hardest work right now. And then I am grateful for let's see. What am I going to choose for my third one today? I think I'm going to choose coffee. So random.
Hell yeah.
But literally, yeah, I just like, I don't know. I've had some good coffee today, so we're just going to leave it that simple.
Yeah.
All right.
I like it.
I'm grateful for your time as well, but that's always
and yours
good.
also.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for prioritizing this. You've got a lot
Yes.
going on all the time. And so I really appreciate you coming and doing it. Plug real quickly anything you want to plug. We will put it in the description below, your app, anything like that.
Yeah. Follow me.
Okay.
Jacoby
Yep.
on Instagram.
Yep.
And everything is right in my bio. So you can find the training app. You can find our podcast right in there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. That'll be in the description below. We just hope that you choose to have a beautiful day.